obviously immigration is such a huge issue.
Yeah.
How is the Christian to think about this issue? Because I think I see it in two ways. We got two lanes. We've got one care and compassion and one law and order.
Yes.
Are they in sync with each other, or am I missing something? Like, how do we think about this before we go to the polls?
It's such an important question, and this is where it's a challenge for people sometimes, but you can't walk and chew gum, right? Like, two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
And when you go back to the very beginning, when God creates Adam and Eve, right, he creates individuals, the individual capacity, but then from individuals, he creates families. We would say that's an institution God created.
Right.
Well, we also know that God creates an institution of government. We could maybe go to Genesis 9, where God gives Noah what were considered the laws of Noah. They became known as the Noahide laws. And in that was things for civil government. And then God creates an institution of the church, really, right? It's Exodus. It's a temple. It's Aaron, Levites. But we know there's three institutions. And one of the important ways to think through this is whose jurisdiction does this fall in?
Yeah.
Right? Because if we're talking about a nation, who's supposed to be in charge of protecting the citizens of the nation? The government.
Yeah.
Now, why that matters is the government's been charged with, the founding fathers believe, right, the role of the government is to protect your God-given rights. What you see in Scripture is the role of the government is to punish the wicked and to reward the righteous.
Right.
That's the
Romans
primary
13.
role. Right? That's a primary role of government. The role of government is not compassion. Now it's interesting because in justice, right, if there was someone who's a murderer and the judge is like, I'm going to have compassion, I'm going to say not guilty. That's
no
not
justice.
your job, right? The family,
That's good.
right, from the murder victim, they can say, we forgive you. But the role of the government is to protect citizens, to do justice, to punish the wicked. And when you look at immigration, the primary role of government is to protect its citizens. Right now, if you have an open border, the government, just by self-evident understanding, cannot be protecting its citizens because they don't even know who's coming into this nation. We do know that there are nations in Central and South America that are emptying out their prisons from violent offenders, right? Murderers, sexual predators, and they're sending them up because they know they can get them out of their country. They don't have to pay for them in prison, and America's embracing them. The federal government is messing up on this issue. Now, here's where you can walk and chew gum. We can still look and say, but we do have a broken immigration system in America. I would agree with that assessment.
Right.
When you look at people that have tried to be legal immigrants and they've gone through a 4, 5, 6, 7-year process to become a legal immigrant, when they're people that love America, they have jobs, they have homes, they want to be here, we should make it easy for people that want to be here to be here. And it should be a challenge for people who have bad intentions to make it into this nation.
Yeah.
That should be an obvious immigration
Seems
statement.
like a no-brainer, but for some it's not.
But that's not what we're doing. So this idea where someone would say, well, right, if we put up a border, that's not loving. Well, hang on. The role of the government is to protect its citizens. Yeah. It would be unloving for the government not to protect their citizens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've confused this concept. And it's not to say that, we should have bigger ports of entry and there should be more agents to process. Now, that's a different conversation. But at that point, we're still saying we want to know who comes in to make sure we're not releasing murderers and rapists and drug dealers, whoever else, into the nation without knowledge. The role of the government is to protect their citizens.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, it should not be confusing to anyone. The government's not protecting citizens when it comes to the immigration issue. This is something as Christians that it should be clear. And we can go further. If you look in Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, even some in Exodus, it talks about if there are strangers that come into your land, there is one law for the stranger, for the sojourner, and for God's people. Well, God's standard was if people are going to live here, they need to follow the laws.
Right.
That's not a racist thing to say. Right. That's also not something that should be super subjective. If you come here, you should want to be here, number one. And number two, you should follow laws. And the laws are there is a legal process to get in. And again, we can talk about should that be changed. That's a different conversation than saying we're not going to follow the laws and open it up and everybody comes in.